Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is BDF 44 hitting you up. And I'm considering right now, going straight into it, what the fit would look like for the Clippers versus the Los Angeles Lakers if the big name free agents were to consider them. Right now, I'm thinking about the Clippers because I'm trying to convince myself if I'm Kawhi Leonard to come to LA, but I got to figure out which team is best for me. Now, most people think it's a foregone conclusion that it's going to be the Clippers because the Clippers have a better infrastructure and all that. But what I know to be true is that at the end of the day, front offices do not play basketball games. Players do. So if I'm assessing what my future looks like, I want my front office to be intact, the infrastructure to be cool, the money to be right, and most of all, for the fit to be perfect for me. And especially if I'm one of the top 5 players in the league, which we have 2 of them up for free agency. So, and they both had their eyes on this city. So I'm thinking, okay, people think it's a foregone conclusion that those guys are going to the Clippers. Well, let's see if this makes sense basketball wise. And I'm a layman. I'll admit I'm not no basketball player, but I've been studying the game for a long time from afar, and this is how my mind puts it together. So bear with me. So I'm looking at the Clippers situation. I say, okay, the Clippers have a defensive team. Assuming that they keep some of the key players that they have, their team is built around togetherness defensively that turns into offensive possessions for them, and they just run like the wind, and they put themselves in positions to kind of beat you by committee. People like Lou Williams and Shai Gilchrist Alexander. That's who they have in their backcourt. Shai is a defensive player, not really looking to facilitate as much, though he can pass a little bit. That's not really his thing. Lou is obviously a shooter. And then you look at their interior presence. Of course, they got Zubac down there. They got Montrez down there. Finishers, fantastic field goal percentage guys, fantastic rebounding guys, good free throw shooters. So they have a nice balance down there in terms of, putting a team around a good defensive-minded player. So I look at a guy like Jimmy Butler. It's a good fit. He can come in and immediately play the shooting guard position for them. Kawhi Leonard can come in immediately, obviously be their superstar at the 3. If they wanted to bring in KD, fantastic fit for him because he can come in and play their 3-4 position, of course. And they would all be able to coincide with each other with a defensive-minded kind of defense to offense type of game. And what the Clippers didn't have much of this year was, outside of Lou Williams, somebody they could go to kind of finish things off. So those guys come in, it's a seamless fit. Now, excuse me. My question is, who is the facilitator on that team? Let's say they get Jimmy Butler and Kawhi Leonard. That's going to eat up pretty much everything. That's the cap right there. Who's actually going to facilitate the basketball to whom? When it really comes down to it, you need people who are going to pass the ball to people that can finish. And though we have a lot of ISO talent down there in that situation, Jimmy Butler's not the type of player that's really going to get too many assists from the 2 guard spot. He's looking to get his own shot and create that way. KD obviously can do anything, and I think he's a better passer than people give him credit for. But him at his best is definitely not facilitating the basketball. And then I look at Kawhi Leonard, and Kawhi Leonard had a career high 9 assists tonight. And as great as a player as he is, if he has any weakness, it would be his passing ability, and that's fine because he's so amazing at shooting the ball and everything else that he does. But that still remains the question. Obviously, they can go find somebody in free agency, but if I'm just assessing the fit, though I think it's a really good fit, I think the upside is somewhat limited until they find a legitimate facilitator on that floor, and I don't know that they can get a quality one. So if I have any, cause for pause with the Clippers, it would be to ask Doc and all those guys, what are we going to do for facilitating purposes? Are we asking non-passing players to set up our offense going forward? And is that going to be enough to beat, to dominate, basically? Because that's what you intend to do if you go there. And do I think they can win a bunch of games? Of course. They're going to win 60 plus games if they can get something like that going. But I think the problem would be, at the end of the day, they wouldn't have any pass first players that are of cachet. It would, if they get any pass first players, it would be somebody they'd get in free agency. And I don't know who's out there that could really do that at a high level, that would get them over the top and make that thing kind of, fit perfectly. Now, if you look at the Lakers, on the other hand, I think the logjam for this team is that the fact that we have so many forwards. We have players like Brandon Ingram. We have people like Kyle Kuzma. We kind of double down if we bring in a KD, for example, unless you get rid of Brandon Ingram, which I don't think anybody should be thinking about doing, to be completely honest, unless you're bringing in AD. I think part of the promise that the Lakers have going here to whatever one free agent that they decide to sign, because I don't think we can afford to sign two at this point, is that we would probably be trading for AD if they came. So whether that be one of the big guys or Kyrie Irving or Kemba Walker or something like that, you're telling them you're probably not going to be playing with kids. You're going to be LeBron James because we're going to win now if we're bringing you in and we have LeBron. So it's a real tricky situation in terms of what they're pitching to free agents. And obviously the free agency process begins after the draft, which I think is backwards personally. But that's how they have it set up. So it's really tricky. I think the best thing the Lakers can honestly say is, for any of the players who want to come here, you're playing with players that pass the ball. And I say the same thing in regards to whether they keep the draft pick and don't make a trade for AD, or if they trade the draft pick and trade away Lonzo Ball. You still have LeBron James, who's a pass-first mentality player, who's going to garner so much attention offensively that he's going to leave you open. If your name is Kyrie Irving, you're going to have open shots. If your name is Klay Thompson, and nobody's mentioning Klay, but he could actually leave, you're going to have open shots, because LeBron James is going to garner so much attention. I personally think it's in the Lakers' best interest to not make a trade for AD, because I think you do better in terms of having AD having a happy circumstance if the team isn't gutted for him to arrive. You'd much rather have him come, or any free agent come in their own free will, and then you can kind of work from there. Because if you gut your team to bring in a guy, how can you make him happy? That was something that I spoke about on a previous video, and I think it applies here in terms of trying to convince free agents to come. If we're planning on gutting our team, we're essentially telling free agents that, we got $100 million for you. LeBron's already got it at 100 plus. We're going to bring in AD at 100 plus, and that's going to be our team. We have no bench. I just don't think you're going to really be able to sell that to anybody, Lakers, honestly. I think the better bet is to just push your timeline back in terms of free agency, bow at LeBron James and say, this is what we have going forward. If we get somebody, we're blessed. If not, we're going to run with our kids and not do anything. We're going to keep this draft pick and just give it till 2020. You'll still have 2 years left on your deal, and we can go sign somebody and have a very deep team. So I think at the end of the day, if I'm looking at the situation and I'm weighing the Clippers situation, they can get a facilitator. At the end of the day, they can find someone via trade with the assets that they have and all of that. The Laker fit is tricky because you have to sell somebody on the idea that they're going to have enough with just LeBron James and Anthony Davis if you're able to make that trade. So it's like you can't even guarantee them what the team is going to look like. It always comes down to players, and I believe the Lakers have a lot of young players that are really, really good. But if you don't have the right system in place, which takes me to what the Clippers do have, which is a defensive-minded team, versus the Lakers, who are signing up with Vogel and really don't know what he's going to bring to the table. It's just a harder sell. So if I'm looking to come to Los Angeles, I think at the end of the day, as much as I love being a Laker fan, and I would choose the Lakers if I were a great fan, which I think Kawhi may be, maybe. But at the end of the day, I got to look at the Clippers first, just because they have infrastructure to get better without ruining the team. They can promise me more, basically, is what what it comes down to. They can promise me more. They can give me a more clear direction to where we're going. I think where the edge really lies for the Lakers is in mystique. And I think they have a better chance of selling it this go round than they have in any other years past because they have LeBron James in place, in uniform. LeBron James has won them how many finals in a row? 9 of them before this year? Coupled with the Lakers' success and mystique and the 16 rings and all that. A guy like Kyrie Irving, you really don't have to sell. I think Kyrie's kind of guy who will say, you know what? I can change anything with my own mind. He has a different way of looking at things. So it's just like, I can go be the solution. And so, but I think he would rather live on the East Coast, to be completely honest. So all the reports I kind of ignore and I just go with what I've heard and what I've seen through, just hearing people who know about the guy speak about the guy. They say that he loves being on the East Coast and he's never lived anywhere outside of that. So I don't know, but it just seems to me that he may not actually want to make the trip west. But I'd welcome him. Obviously, LeBron wants him here. And free agency is going to go as it goes. At the end of the day, it's a lot of money to give to everybody. And only a few spots that people really desire to go to. New York has their money, both teams, so there's that. And then you got Philly, who's probably going to be able to sign one guy if they lose both. So it's kind of like a who wants to go where kind of thing and who can get to where they want to be first. And everybody's going to wait for KD, so expect that. But after KD and Kawhi sign, then you're going to see some incredible movement, in my opinion. Hopefully my team gets the best of the best, but I'd rather sign people in free agency than just gut the team full of young players and then hope for the best. That just doesn't seem like a situation that's inviting, in my opinion. We got to keep a better surrounding of talent in place so that guys can have a bench to play with. Because we see it. When you don't have a bench, you're not going too far in this league. Anyway, I'm going to sign out, everyone. This is BDF coming at you with another one. And I hope you enjoy what you've heard because you couldn't see me. We're in the dark. Take care. Peace.